that the sun shines down its power to all the world and makes the wind blow strong as it will. So lovely earth can stay lovely still. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Energy Week with George Harvey and the famous Tom Fennell. And we are doing the news starting on April 7th. Every day I get up early, far too early, but I get up. Today I was up at about 4 o'clock. I watched The Big Short last night for about the 5th time.
Oh yeah, you've told me about that. Yes,
everybody
yes.
should watch The Big Short. Anyway, I do the internet news and I do searches and I look at what's going on and
he does all the heavy lifting.
Well, that's what Tom says. I'm not so sure that it's really true. But anyway, I look at all this stuff and I find articles that I think are interesting and I put them up at my blog, which is geoharvey.wordpress.com. And I get together a list of about 20 of these things. Tom and I go over them every Thursday morning, which is why we start with Thursday.
Yeah.
Because that gives Tom, we go Thursday to Wednesday and we have time to prepare the show.
So what the show is, it's the best of the blog.
Best of the blog. That's what it is. So I guess we should just go. And our first piece here is from Environment America.
You got a picture for us?
I have a picture, that's right, and I'll bet you have a title.
And I do. Yeah, it says from California to New Jersey, cities help lead the nation's solar boom. And that picture there is from the roof of the Space and Naval Warfare Systems Command headquarters in San Diego.
In San Diego, 64 American cities are now home to almost as much solar capacity as the entire country was at the end of 2010. That's really kind of amazing when you think about it.
It really is.
Yeah, according to analysis that ranks America's major cities for their solar power. Los Angeles, San Diego, which is what's pictured, and Phoenix topped the list for the most solar power.
Well, that's not surprising. They're in heavy insolation locations.
They are in heavy insolation, and that is as opposed to insulation.
And along that same line, Honolulu, Indianapolis, which surprises me, and San Jose have the most solar panels per capita.
Okay, yeah.
And cities outside of the Sun Belt in the top 20 include Newark, New Jersey, New York, and Washington, D.C.
Yeah, but inside the Sun Belt, what's going on in Florida?
Well, it's not mentioned in the information I have
and
here.
the reason for that is because of politics.
Oh, yeah.
Politics.
We've touched base on that
elsewhere.
elsewhere.
Yeah, we sure have. Yes. Okay. Should we
Matter of fact, one of the things we're going to talk about doesn't mention Florida, but does mention politics.
Oh, yeah.
Mostly in Texas. And we'll get to that.
A lot going on in Texas. Texas is an amazing state. All right, we're going to go to the next article, which comes from the Sydney Morning Herald. And here we're
on this one
almost back to the same picture, it looks like, until you realize that this is green. It's got a hill in the distance.
The picture.
And it's got two different kinds of solar mounts here. There's fixed mounts in the middle of the picture, and off on the left in the upper corner, there are single-axis trackers.
Oh, yeah. I didn't realize that.
Yep.
I noticed this just by the perspective there. This is a very large solar array.
Yeah, it is. It's big.
This is really, I don't know where it is.
Well, it's in
The article came from Australia.
Yeah, this is an Australian picture, I believe, because it was supplied by the Sydney Morning Herald.
Well, it's called Wind and Solar Are Crushing Solar Fuels. And by the way, I got to mention, this is a very comprehensive article.
Yeah, this is
we could probably spend the whole show talking about
this article, and
if you guys can find it, and you're going to have to, I think, click on George's blog to find it.
April 7th.
But boy, there's a video, there's a slideshow.
Stuff, yeah.
Oh, you could keep going for a couple of hours.
Well, the article says recent auctions in Mexico and Morocco ended with winning bids that show solar and wind will soon be the least expensive sources worldwide, according to Michael Liebreich, the chairman of the advisory board for Bloomberg New Energy Finance.
Bloomberg's keeping on top of things.
Bloomberg New Energy Finance certainly is, and Michael Liebreich is a very well-respected expert on energy. And basically what's happening here is that auctions for power purchase agreements, which are big agreements, they will go on for 20 years or whatever.
And they're real. This is not theoretical. This is
real stuff. And these auctions are coming in with solar power and wind power winning awards are for contracts that are below 5 cents per kilowatt hour.
And there's no subsidies here.
Yeah, in many of these,
this is real life stuff.
Right, we see 4.385, I think was the lowest I've seen, cents per kilowatt hour from solar, unsubsidized, absolutely without government subsidies. And for wind power, with government subsidies, I've seen them at 1.5 cents, but that's with a 2.3 cent subsidy from the United States government. But even so, that's that's
that's a game changer.
That's a game changer. It is, and it's just getting cheaper from these sources.
And that's correct. Now, this article didn't mention it exactly what they're saying, but it does say this: clean energy investment. The investors, have broken new records in 2015.
Right.
So the financial community is getting behind this stuff.
The financial community is getting behind it. And another thing that we're seeing is that last year in the United States and in the rest of the world, the amount of renewable energy that's coming into production is huge compared to fossil fuels. Last year in the United States, almost 75% of new infrastructure was renewable, and there was practically no coal infrastructure at all.
At all, no new stuff.
3 megawatts. 3 megawatts.
3 megawatts.
Yeah, that's the size.
There's people have bigger than that on their roofs.
Not individual people, but certainly there are companies that have got that, and a 3 megawatt solar array would be a really big array.
It'd be a big solar array, yeah.
For Vermont.
Oh yeah.
But 3 megawatts is a tiny station.
Yeah,
it
when
really
you're
is.
talking utility scale, it's off the lower end of the map.
It would not be big enough to supply Brattleboro with power.
Yeah. Oh no.
And that's all that was installed in the entire United States last year. Last year, natural gas installations were only half of what they were the year before. The year before
and
they were only
gas is up.
Yeah, and the year before they were only 2/3 of what they had been the year before that. So natural gas is going down,
and oil and gas are way down. I mean, oil and coal.
It's crazy to see what's happening here. But anyway, that's Michael Liebreich having his opinion, and me having mine, and Tom having his. And you can choose which one of the three you want to believe.
Well, the next one coming up is 20+ nations have decoupled their gross domestic product from emissions.
Yeah, this is from Clean Technica.
What that means in plain English is they're not losing money in their gross domestic product by switching to renewables.
Absolutely. Since 2000, more than 20 countries have successfully curbed greenhouse gas emissions while boosting their gross domestic product, according to World Resources Institute analyst named Nate Aden. No single trend has driven GDP, GHG decoupling across all countries. This means the different countries have got different reasons why they're doing it.
But they're still decoupling.
But they're still decoupling. So they're reducing their greenhouse gas emissions, and their gross domestic product is going up.
Which isn't supposed to happen.
Not according to the fossil fuel industry, no. But it's happening.
It's reality.
It's reality, and that is from Clean Technica. We are up to...
Well, we're up to Friday already.
And I've got another picture for Friday.
Another picture comes up.
More solar arrays. We've been looking at solar.
This is more local.
Yeah, it is.
And the article says that New Hampshire Senate okays a bill doubling the cap on solar power sellback. That's a lot of words.
Yeah, it is.
The picture there is a 15 kilowatt solar array at the Canterbury, New Hampshire Municipal Building.
Right. These are on trackers.
That's a good sized solar array for
Yeah.
New Hampshire. It is.
It is. These are on trackers, and what that means is that the solar panels are actually aimed at the sun.
They're moving
And
all day long.
They move all day
Yep.
long. And they will also, because these are dual axis trackers, they'll also aim slightly lower in the winter and slightly higher in the summer so they can catch the maximum
So they're
rays.
always pointing at the sun.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, you can think about why this makes a big difference when you think about where the sun rises in the summer. The sun rises north of east in the summer.
Yeah, it does.
And the farther north you are, the farther north it rises until you get to places above the Arctic Circle, where in the summer it's going to rise in the north. You know.
It doesn't set.
Well, yeah, that's right.
Go far enough
it's
north.
closest to the horizon at the north, and at some point in the year it'll touch the horizon first in the north. So the tracker really has to be able to point north in order to catch the rays of the sun.
Yeah, it does.
And,
it absolutely does.
Yeah, but anyway, this article was in the Union Leader in Manchester. The New Hampshire Senate agreed to double the amount of electricity solar panel owners may sell to utilities while telling regulators to develop a system that stops cost shifting to other customers. The bill increases a net metering cap from 50 to 100 megawatts.
So what they're saying is you can sell more to the utility than we were previously allowing you to.
Right. Well, more individual customers can sell also. This is a cap.
Yes.
And that's
the goal
important.
is to retain, and this is interesting, about 700 solar industry jobs
Yeah.
in the state of New Hampshire.
Yeah. And one of the things that happened was a year ago, roughly, or a little over a year ago, maybe it was under a year ago, but they raised the cap last year. And they raised it from a very, very low cap to the 50 megawatts. And that 50 megawatts was fully subscribed within months.
Okay.
It was just a few, like 3 months later.
Everybody was ready for it.
Everybody was waiting for that. And, you know, it was really, people were just waiting to get involved. Now, they had to stop, and they're waiting to get involved again when they did this. And how long will it take to get to 100 megawatts? Honestly, I think it'll happen this year.
Oh yeah, I think they're ready. They're waiting for it. They're anticipating it.
But our next article
Uh-huh.
Our next article is from the Latin American Herald Tribune, and this is kind of exciting. Not that everything isn't exciting.
Okay. Uruguay cuts the cost of power generation by 52%.
Yeah,
That's significant.
it is. But the rest of it is also significant. Uruguay reduced power generation costs by 52% between 2013 and this year, saving $500 million at a time when demand for electricity continued to grow. According to figures released last month, 56% of Uruguay's electricity now comes from renewable sources. That's why they were able to cut those bills.
Well, the article doesn't say it, but I'm sure Uruguay has a lot of hydro. Well, what this article's talking about is the growth of wind farms.
Right. It's the growth of wind farms. There's a lot of activity in renewable power in South America. It's really kind of astonishing. Argentina is not particularly active,
But they don't have a lot of oil or coal down there, so
Yeah.
this makes a lot of sense for these guys.
it does. It does indeed. I mean, they have a lot of oil in Venezuela, but that's the
about
other
it.
end of the continent. Yeah, and Chile, and Brazil, and Uruguay, and of course Paraguay. Paraguay is producing about 1,000% of the power it needs from hydro.
From hydro. They're very well suited for hydro.
They
they've
export a
been
lot of power.
utilizing it for a long time.
Yes, they export a lot of power. Anyway,
Well,
should
this
we go
one
on?
coming up, this is a biggie.
This is Saturday,
is a
April
biggie.
9th, and this picture that we have coming up really, I think, is stunning.
Well, the article's called "There Is No More Land."
Yeah, And this comes from, this was on CNN. And this is an opinion piece.
The picture there is ghost trees,
Ghost trees.
which have fallen victim to saltwater intrusion.
And I have just lost where I was. Ah, here we go. It's an opinion piece. There is no land. There's no more land. A football-sized amount of land, on average, falls into the Gulf of Mexico every hour. Île de Jean-Charles, and I'm sorry I'm so bad at pronouncing French.
Better than I would.
Yeah, well, this is in Louisiana,
Yep.
which is bad pronunciation of southern. Was once the size of Manhattan. Now it's about a third of the size of Central Park. The coastal island has lost 98% of its land since 1955. And this is going on down there. Now, some of that is just because deltas change.
Well,
But some of it is...
they did say that. The community is disappearing in part because of poor river management.
Yeah,
And it's the dams upstream that used to bring the silt down
Right.
to replenish this island.
Right.
And it ain't happening anymore.
yep.
And this is supplemented by global warming and rise of the Gulf.
Right, supplemented by global warming and the rise of the Gulf. The water is getting deeper, so you've got this very flat piece of land.
As they say here, global warming is delivering the knockout punch.
Wow, and you know there was a community on the island, and the federal government gave them, I forget, it was
$48
$48 million to move.
Yep.
And it was
They don't want to move.
It was not a big community. Well, they want to
There's
live in
nothing
their
left.
homes, but there's
Yeah.
nothing left there. And of course, this is happening not just in the Delta, but it's also happening in Alaska, and it's happening in the Marianas, and it's happening in the Philippines, and it's happening all over the world. Wherever you've got a coast, you've got people having to move. Wonder what's going to happen when New York City has
To
to
put
move.
this in perspective geographically, if you can imagine the state of Louisiana,
Yeah,
down south, there's a cape that sticks out into the ocean,
Right.
into the Gulf. I think
Right.
that's Cape Girardeau, but I'm not sure.
I don't know.
Right next to that, the very, very southern part of Louisiana is where these guys are.
Yes, yeah.
Right? And
They're very exposed.
very exposed,
Yeah.
yeah. And they're watching virtually daily. They're watching their island getting smaller.
You know, this makes me think of something that really bugged me about 30 years ago. I was very upset because I had figured out that one of the places that was really vulnerable was the whole area of the southern Mississippi River from Baton Rouge on down. And the reason I could see, you could see this just looking at a map, was because of a connection between the Mississippi River, the Atchafalaya River, and that which comes out to the Gulf at Morgan City. And that's a much shorter route than the route that goes to the Gulf now. And all that had to happen was for the Mississippi River to go upstream about 1.5 miles on the Red River of the South, and then down the Atchafalaya River. And I did
Which I guess it could do if we
it
wanted
could do.
to, couldn't it?
And I did a little research on this and found that the Army Corps of Engineers was absolutely having fits because there was a dam on the Atchafalaya River, between the Atchafalaya and the Red River, to prevent exactly this from happening.
Uh-huh.
And the dam was being undermined. And they said all you'd have to do would be to have that dam collapse, and the Mississippi River would reroute to Morgan City. And that means that the entire lower end of the Mississippi River would have no river, which would basically be the kiss of death for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they
Well,
were
as
upset.
we learned in Irene, right here in Brattleboro,
Yeah,
you can't tell a river where to go.
that's right.
It's going to go where
It's
it
gonna
wants
go
to
where
go.
it wants to go. I remember watching the perfect storm hit the waves hitting a seawall, and the seawall was made of stones that were, I think they were about 2 by 3 by 5 feet. These are big pieces.
Good-sized stone.
Dressed stone. And they broke through the mortar between the stones, and they were just blasting a road on the other side. And when I came back the next day, a number of those stones had been washed out to sea.
Yeah.
Just imagine washing a stone that size out to sea. These things weighed, I don't know, probably 4 tons each. And the waves were just pushing them around.
Who was it? What king was it that told the ocean not to advance?
I think that was Persian. He was a Persian emperor, and I think it might have been
more
Cyrus.
than one, but there was an English king. Canute.
Okay, Canute. Okay,
Yeah,
I didn't know about that.
They brought him out to the ocean, and he sat there and he said, "Stop," and it wouldn't stop.
Well, they said that I think it was Cyrus, but it might have been Darius as Darius. I would say instead had the sea whipped as punishment.
Oh yeah? No, I don't know that
because it had
story.
destroyed a fleet. Okay,
Well,
we should go
let's move
on.
into France, huh?
France.
The energy minister says that Hinkley C must not dry out renewables funding.
Yeah, this is
Didn't
from
we
the
talk about
ecologist.
something like this last week?
We've talked about Hinkley C a bunch of times, and what has happened here is French energy minister Ségolène Royal, and I'm apologizing again for not being able to. I speak Welsh better than I speak French. Said postponing the Hinkley C nuclear power project is still a possibility. And she
I
said,
think it's a strong possibility.
yeah, I think so. She said the project must not be allowed to drain away funds from planned investments in renewable energy to bring France toward its 40-degree green power target. And, you know, I read that like that's diplomise,
Well,
or diplomatese.
diplomatese.
For we're not going to do this, folks.
Well, the backstory here is
Yeah.
that the French company, EDF, Électricité de France, I can't speak French either, which is controlled by the French government,
Yeah.
okay, is the prime bidder to build this Hinkley plant.
Yeah.
Why, I don't know. You know, I don't
Well,
know,
they
but
thought
that's European politics.
They thought they had a good reactor.
But EDF is looking at this thing, and they're starting to get cold feet.
Yeah,
And
they are. And their unions.
Part of it, and their unions are up. They're scared.
And the unions
yeah.
own large parts of the company.
Yeah, they do. It's controlled by the government,
Yeah.
but it's not entirely owned by the government. So you know, it's up in the air. It's
Yeah.
you and I have talked about this. Neither of us think it's going to happen.
My recollection is that the strike point, the cost of power from that plant had to be guaranteed
Yeah, it's
for 35
ridiculous.
years at 17 cents.
It's ridiculous.
With increases, according, and that's, just think about this, 17
That
cents
makes no economic
opposed
sense.
to
For nickel.
4 cents for wind power. It makes no sense at
Yeah.
all. And they
Well,
say,
it's politics.
it's
all
politics. They say, well, wind power is intermittent and nuclear power isn't. I got news
Well,
for
nuclear
you.
power is
Nuclear power is a horrible match to grid demand. It's absolutely terrible. It's much easier to control wind power, and solar, of course, comes on when they...
Especially with storage technology.
Yeah, well, and transmission lines. That's the secret.
You're absolutely right. You're right.
They have the
Take
secret.
it from here to there where they need it.
Yeah, they
where
have the
want it.
secret invention called transmission lines. They were invented when, Tom?
Huh?
When were transmission lines invented?
Oh, I don't know. Long time ago.
Before I was born.
Long time
A
ago.
long time, probably before my grandmother was born.
Well, Edison brought Niagara Power down to New York City somewhere around 1910.
Yeah, so clearly that's a long distance
That's
for those
a pretty
days.
good sized distance.
Yeah, and okay, that was from the Ecologist. Our next item is from Clean Technica. This is still Friday the 9th.
Yeah, this is Massachusetts solar inaction, costing hundreds of millions in lost revenue. And the inaction, well, you'll tell us what the inaction is.
I will indeed. Analysis by Vote Solar and U.S. Solar Energy Industries Association shows that inaction on net metering caps and solar renewable energy credit program in Massachusetts has halted construction on more than 500 separate solar projects valued at a total of $617 million.
So the backstory is here that the net metering caps are slowing things down, and the state of Massachusetts won't do anything about it.
Yeah.
Apparently just because of inertia.
Well, because of inertia. Also, there's another problem, and that problem is that the utilities in Massachusetts and also to a certain extent the gas companies are trying to stall things. They don't want solar power put up. They're losing customers. They don't like that. So what they're trying to do is to prevent the net metering cap from being raised.
Okay. Well, the three largest utilities in Massachusetts are the ones where they have reached their net metering caps.
Yeah.
And people cannot get any more.
Yeah, and they want to keep
credits.
it that
so
way.
That makes sense. I didn't think of that.
I hadn't, I have to tell you, that's a conspiracy. They're not admitting this. This is a conspiracy theory I happen to hold to. I don't hold to many, but I do hold to that one. Okay, our next item coming up.
Okay, we're moving along here.
Midwest Energy News.
We
This
got a nice
is
picture here.
picture of turbines in Minnesota.
Minnesota.
Yeah, that looks familiar to me, having come from the Midwest myself.
State renewable energy standards are succeeding at little cost.
Yep. A report from Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory says states with renewable energy portfolio standards have been highly successful at meeting their targets, with a handful of states setting higher targets within the past year while adding an average of 1.3% to power bills. And I got to tell you, in a lot of states, the additions are the power bills are going down.
They're going down. Yep.
So, yep.
Well, 1.3% is not very much.
No, it's not very much. But the other thing is that the additions tend to be temporary. Should we go
One
on?
of the things that's said here is the addition of large amounts of wind and solar power is being used by the utilities themselves, procuring renewable energy on a straight economic basis or
Right.
to hedge their exposure
Right.
to fossil fuel price increase risk.
Right. Yeah.
So they're hedging their bets here.
Yeah, they are. Well, those power bills go up a great deal more than 1.3% when the price of natural gas goes up.
Absolutely.
Okay, our next item is from oilprice.com.
And this is called the wireless technology that will transform the energy industry.
This is kind of interesting.
This is very interesting.
University of Washington researchers have developed technology that enables sensors and small electronics to be entirely powered wirelessly from TV, radio, cell phone, and Wi-Fi signals. The miniature devices don't require batteries or any wiring because of the energy in the signals.
There's energy in the signals. So they're grabbing that energy and using it to recharge their batteries.
Yeah, which means that you've got a reason to have those phantom loads going in your house if you're going to depend on these things.
Yeah.
So, this is a kind of an interesting idea.
But it's an idea whose time has come.
Yep.
But it's not mature yet. It's going to
Not
be quite a
mature.
while before
Yeah.
this is practical.
Yep.
But it will be practical. It just makes too much sense.
It will be. We have another photo coming up here, and this is crews working to stop the natural gas leak in Aliso Canyon in December. You got
Now,
this?
we've talked about this several times already.
bunch of
But
times,
and we talked about this exact thing last week about the blackouts.
We did.
Why the Aliso Canyon gas leak in LA County could lead to blackouts this summer.
Yeah.
And the bottom line, well, you read it.
Yep. Southern California's reliance on natural gas has grown much more clear. Utilities are warning of possible blackouts this summer after the massive Aliso Canyon methane leak took the region's largest natural gas storage field offline. Blackouts underscore the true meaning of fossil fuel dependence. These people in Los Angeles are going to have blackouts because they're dependent on fossil fuels.
There isn't enough gas in reserve in that part of the country to take care of the peak loads.
Yeah. Did you have this picture up so people
I
can
did,
see?
yep.
Okay.
I just took it off so they could see you.
Yeah. And of course, people talk about the intermittent nature of solar and wind. I got news for you, gang. Compare a gas leak with a solar leak and tell me which one you prefer.
Yeah,
Honest to goodness.
yeah, I can see them now scooping up all that solar leaking off the farm fields there.
Yeah, well, what can I say? Leaking solar from farm fields. Okay. Our next item comes from Green Energy Times, and I didn't write it.
Oh, you didn't write it?
No, I
oh,
did
my
not.
Goodness, my
This one
goodness. I
came-
was hoping you did because
No.
you could explain it to us.
No, this one comes from the Vermont Law School,
Okay.
believe it or not, which, by the way,
Proposed changes to Vermont's net metering law.
yeah, Vermont Law School has got two different programs, one of which is energy law and another is climate change law.
No kidding.
And they are considered premier.
I would
in-
say
in
that's
that-
cutting edge.
Whoa. They really, and there are national publications that have, you know, material up for that talks about the people at this particular school, that are written by people at this school. But they wrote this, and they
Well, this article was very legalese. I was
very
having a
legalese.
difficult
It's
time
hard.
understanding
It's
it.
hard. The Vermont Public Service Board is currently revising the net metering program. The Public Service Board must design a revised program with input from impacted parties and the public, but the proposed revisions may make net metering much more difficult. And in fact, what the article says is, if these proposals go through as they are, they will probably stop the program.
That's interesting, and that's not good news.
Not good news.
If you guys watching this show are interested in this, pull the article up.
You can get it from Green Energy Times, or you can get it indirectly through my
You
blog.
can get through your blog.
Right.
Pull it up because there are instructions there. There's opportunities to make your voice heard.
Right. There's a
Okay,
letter
and they're
there that
coming
you can,
up.
Yeah.
You can write letters. You can appear in person.
You have
there are
very little
meetings
time
coming.
to do it, though.
The time is short.
Right.
That's absolutely
Time
right.
is short, and it happens that there's a sample letter at Green Energy Times that you can just cut and paste and send to the Public Service Board.
Well, this is take away from this. If the net metering charges, just exactly what you said, are finalized in their current form, we will likely find that it no longer makes financial sense to go solar in Vermont.
Right. Now, at the geoharvey.wordpress.com site, this is listed on the 10th of April, which means that at the Green Energy Times site, it's probably listed on the 9th. It might be on the 10th. I'm not sure which, but you can look at either of those sites and find it. At the Green Energy Times site, I would imagine you'd find it if you did a search on PSB. So, April 11th, Monday.
Okay, this is local. I keep wanting to say local energy. Energy local clubs.
Yeah.
An energy local means something in England. It's,
Yes.
it's an organization that helps municipalities do what we're just going to talk about.
Right.
Energy local clubs help electricity users take power.
Yes.
Okay?
This is from a publication called Cooperative News.
Now let me get this picture up here.
Yeah, this is a
nice
pretty picture.
This is the Whaley Community Hydro in Lancashire.
Yep. UK electricity customers are coming together to take control of how they use and pay for power. Energy local clubs set up as community benefit societies or community interest companies aim to reduce bills for consumers and connect them with locally owned renewable generators. And this particular little picture, you know,
Explain that one. That's pretty nice. That's a weir, isn't it?
that's a weir, and you can see the water going over that weir is so slow that there's a duck just standing in it right at the edge.
Is that what that? Yeah, it is. It's a duck. Oh my God! Quack quack.
Just standing there. And of course, what happens is any fish that can make it through those areas where the water is rapid can swim up that weir and get over it.
Yeah.
So fish will
So the
go.
dam is not. It's not a dam. It's not.
It's not a
preventing the
dam.
fish,
It's
yeah.
a weir, and weirs can be as much as about 6 feet tall.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the ones that Queen Elizabeth has 2 Archimedes screw turbines powering Windsor Castle at
Okay.
a weir in the Thames River,
Okay.
which is about as flat as a pancake.
Yeah.
You know, but the water in this thing that's actually being used is probably in that stone building, and it's probably coming down in a sluiceway or something from farther upstream. I'm not sure.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's got a little bit more head than what we see there.
Yeah, but this is a typical kind of thing where you can get water producing power
From almost any stream.
from all kinds of places. And, you know, this is not a dam, and it doesn't have a big ecological impact. And if it's Archimedes screw turbine, fish can swim through it, not upstream, but certainly downstream with no damage at all.
This stream looks like it's pretty much like the West River is here.
Pretty much, yeah.
It's not the Connecticut. It's, it's like the West.
Yeah, that's
Now,
right.
a little takeaway on this energy local.
Yeah.
It's a new way to enable local communities to work together to pool their locally owned generation and manage local demand to reduce bills and carbon emissions.
Yep.
It's sort of like co-op power is here.
Yes.
It's helping people to put together co-ops and
and there's no reason why this can't be done anywhere in many states of the United States.
It's
There
a good
are
idea.
states where you have
good
to,
idea.
and the states where you really have to fight for permission and actually go to the legislature and say, give us this, are the ones that favor the free market, so-called free market.
free market. Yeah.
Where you've got to fight to get that.
But that's what these energy local guys are to help you fight.
That's right. That's right. Okay.
And I'm all for locally owned power
Absolutely.
and community cooperatively owned power.
Absolutely, and they've got that all through Europe. It's not in the United States. We have solar, and we may have hydro in a few places, but in Germany it extends to, and in much of the rest of Europe it extends beyond solar to wind turbines. I mean, big commercial wind turbines are owned by they'll sit at the edge. They'll sit at the edge of a town and they'll belong to the people in the town.
It makes sense to me.
Yeah. Anyway, our next item comes from Law Street Media.
Well, we got a picture coming up.
We do. There's the picture. How about that?
These are wind turbines on the prairie.
Yeah.
They don't say which prairie, but it's probably Texas. This is a very interesting article called "The Mystery of Wind Energy in Texas."
Yeah.
Why is it a mystery, George?
Okay, this is an opinion piece. The mystery of wind energy in Texas. Texas politicians fiercely deny the scientific validity of climate change.
And they do. It's fierce down there.
Oh man, I'll tell you. And the state is home to the headquarters of such companies as ExxonMobil and ConocoPhillips, but Texas leads the U.S. in installed wind capacity. How did this paradox occur? Well, what happens when the price of wind energy happens to drop below the price of anything ExxonMobil or ConocoPhillips or Texas politicians can deliver? The people who want that power buy it from whoever has got it cheapest.
No, it turned out to be affordable and reliable.
Yeah, and so what happens? These free market politicians are trying to do everything they can to stop this from happening, but it isn't working. So, you know,
money talks.
Money talks. And in a free market where the free market politicians try to force the free market to be the way they're controlling.
Well, they were fighting an uphill battle. This sentence here says the geographically even terrain of rural Texas.
Yeah.
And particularly they're talking about the part that sticks up.
The panhandle.
The panhandle.
Yeah.
Has some of the highest wind potential in the entire nation.
Yep.
Okay, making wind farms a highly effective technology for the state.
Yeah.
You can't get around that.
You can't get around it. It's almost like telling people, you might remember a few years ago, the World Bank went into, I'm going to say it was Bolivia, it might have been Ecuador, or it might have been Peru, but it was one of the Andean countries in Central South America. And they said, yeah, we'll fix your water infrastructure in the city, but you've got to pass a law saying people are not allowed to collect rainwater.
That's happening in parts of America. It is.
But you know, how are you going to make people not collect rainwater? I mean, really? Is this a realistic thing to do? You're going to tell people they have to duct the rainwater to the edge of from the edge of their roof down drains, and then drains have to go to the sewers. Is this really smart?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
It's insanity, and the people who are doing this are claiming to be free market, but they're serving ExxonMobil and ConocoPhillips and other
That's
companies.
the free market.
That's the free market. That's who owns the free market. If you're going to participate in the free market, you got to do what its owners say. There you go. Should
Well,
we
we
go
got
on?
an interesting one coming up here.
Yeah, this one is kind of cute.
Yeah,
It's more than just kind of cute.
Judge denies motion by the fossil fuel industry and the federal government in a landmark climate change case.
Yeah.
And that picture is there is the
Kids.
youth plaintiffs
Yeah, the youth plaintiffs.
celebrating after the judge threw the
objections.
objections
Yeah.
out. This isn't over yet.
No. This
But
is
they
just
were
beginning. And the thing that they're celebrating is that they're allowed to make their case.
And it's an interesting case.
It's an interesting case. They are suing the federal government and the President of the United States because the federal government and the President of the United States are allowing their future to get wrecked by climate change.
Interesting concept.
It's an interesting concept. U.S. Magistrate Judge Thomas Coffin of the Federal District Court in Eugene, Oregon, ruled against a motion to dismiss brought by the fossil fuel industry and the federal government both. The federal government was fighting.
Is backing the fossil fuel industry here.
Bill McKibben and Naomi Klein call this case, quote, the most important lawsuit on the planet right now, end quote. I don't know which one of those it's a quote of, but
They're suing the federal government
yeah.
for violating their constitutional rights
Yep.
to life, liberty, and property,
Yep.
and a right to essential public trust resources by permitting, encouraging, and otherwise enabling continued exploitation, production, and combustion of fossil fuels.
They are suing the federal government because fossil fuels are being burned.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Bingo.
Just think about
And
that.
they're
And
saying,
by the way,
you're leaving us
Yeah.
without these resources, which are ours.
right. And in case anybody wants my opinion on this, fossil fuels. Natural gas is worse than coal.
Explain.
When you have to,
I'm not arguing
when
that,
you're
but
letting
explain.
6 or 7% of the natural gas into the atmosphere, natural gas is somewhere between
Oh, you're
20,
talking about the leaks.
yeah, 20 and to 100
I
times
can't believe
as
they're
bad.
allowing it to happen because they're losing money.
There are places where over a third of the gas in the gas fields is lost. Just
That's
think
absurd.
about that. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And if you want to, anybody, watch Gasland. You'll see gas bubbling up through a stream, and it looks like somebody put an aquarium bubbler down there. It's coming up so fast. You can cap it with a cone and light it on fire, and there's just a fire at the top of the cone. We have to move on, however.
Well, we're up to Tuesday already, so
We're up to Tuesday, and this
we're
is a
going to
good
be
one.
talking about sharply higher rooftop solar potential increases the potential for energy self-reliance.
Right.
And the map, which I'll pull up
There
here,
you go.
changes attributable to more accurate roof surveys.
Right.
So the information that they're gathering has changed,
Right.
and they're looking at more potential for rooftop solar.
Right. This is from Clean Technica, but the information comes from the National Renewable Energy Laboratory. It released a new estimate of rooftop solar potential, updating a 2008 Energy Atlas, Energy Self-Reliant States. New maps show much more potential to get our electricity from solar on nearby buildings than we had thought. And these percentages that you see, Vermont at 42%.
That's significant.
It is. New Hampshire at 33%. That's not the percentage we can get. That is the
Increase in percentage.
increase that they have found. If you could go to my blog, geoharvey.wordpress.com on April 12th, you'll be able to find this article.
There's a lot of meat in this article, too.
lot of meat. Yeah.
There's much more than this one map.
Right, and what this means basically is the state of Vermont, you can get a lot more solar power from
Than you thought
rooftop
you
solar
could have,
than
yeah.
we had thought. It's
Yep.
still not as much as we need, and in fact with electric vehicles and electric heating and so forth, it's probably going to be no more than about 1/8 of what we need. But even so, this is a significant amount of our power. And some of this change is because the NREL, National Renewable Energy Lab, had misestimated the area of available rooftops. Some of it is because of changes in the solar technology itself that makes the panels more powerful and more sensitive. So
there's a takeaway here. Let's talk about it. Is the goal of maximizing renewable energy one of minimizing the cost or maximizing the economic benefit?
Yeah, and that is a really big difference, because
is it going to be distributed power generated by the people themselves, or is it going to be the big utilities that have been traditionally generating power?
The big utilities want to make sure that people don't put in rooftop solar in much of the United States. And, you know, for example,
they're not going to win that fight.
No. In New Mexico, they want to. The utilities are saying, "Hey, fair is fair. Utility customers who don't have solar have to pay the extra power bills for people that we're giving net metering to." But the problem with that, of course, is the net metering price is at or above the price of retail, and that's why they want to charge more. But the fact of the matter is, it's at or above retail, but at the time of day when the sun is shining, wholesale is higher than retail. So it doesn't count.
That's a good point. You don't think about that one.
No, you don't think about that very much. It's because the demand is highest during the daytime. And so these utilities are, in my opinion, just lying through their teeth. But they want the money.
The long term is they can't win, because what's going to happen if they say you can't sell us the power? People are going to store it in a battery.
That's right. That's what I'm doing. You know, I'm putting in a solar system I can't get net metering because it's not going to be connected to the grid.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm missing out on something, but I'm doing it. Sorry.
Let's move along to the next
Clean
one.
Technica also gave us this next one.
February crushes the heat record.
Oh, man.
Set in, guess what? January.
Set in January. Hey, all you people, you know, who are running for president of the United States or have been recently, who are saying, no, it's not happening, it's stopped. Well, February beat January. January beat all of last year. This January was hotter than every month of last year. Last year beat the year before.
That's what it's saying right here.
2014 said it beat 2010. 2010 beat 2005. 2005 beat 1998, which they say
was the biggest.
And things haven't been heating up since then. Well,
this is a takeaway here. All this weirdness follows the record-smashing year of 2015.
Oh, man.
Which beat the previous record warmth of 2014.
I got news for you. Climate change is real. Global warming is happening. When President Obama said 97% of scientists agree, he was citing old statistics. So MSNBC and other organizations, and I saw this coming in the news, but MSNBC is the one I cite because it had by far the largest survey sample. MSNBC went to climate scientists. They did a survey of climate scientists and meteorologists who had published in peer-reviewed journals of climatology and meteorology. Mm-hmm. And they asked a slightly different question than the earlier question. Instead of asking, do you believe in human-caused climate change, they said, the survey was, do you believe that human-caused climate change is not happening? And they found
they turned the question around.
Yeah, they did. Because, if 97% believe it is, then maybe people are saying, well, 3% believe it isn't. But in fact, it could be that 3% just never said anything.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened.
Yeah. So what they found was that out of almost 70,000 people, they were able to find 4 who said it wasn't happening. And that's not 4,000. That's 4.
4 people.
4 people.
Oh, wow.
And my observation on that is, I would expect to get more than 4 positive responses if I went to 70,000 physicists and asked, is it true that you believe that you're the reincarnation of Isaac Newton? 4. Do you suppose there might be as many as 4, or a few more than that, of climate scientists and meteorologists who are just a little bit whack-a-ding-hoy?
Okay.
What? One of them might actually be, that's right.
Well, let's move along.
Yeah,
we talked about this one already, but it's a new twist. Connecticut River dams come with tasks for the new owner.
Yeah, this is from Valley News.
Which isn't necessarily a bad thing.
Well, no, it's not. Lawmakers will soon get a report on whether Vermont should purchase a series of hydroelectric dams along the Connecticut and Deerfield rivers. In the meantime, they're discovering that the next owners of the dams will be under heavy pressure to address a range of environmental concerns.
Well, what the owner, what's the name of the company?
TransCanada.
What TransCanada was doing is when the prices of electricity were high, they were running the water through the dams a lot.
Yep.
And then when the prices were low, they were storing the water. And this isn't the way to do it.
Yeah.
And the state is saying whoever owns these is going to have to be more responsible, because you guys have been scouring the riversides by these releases.
Yes.
Which I guess works in favor of the state, because the state is much more likely to run these things in an ecologically sound manner than somebody who's looking to profit.
But Tom, this is socialism.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
Bernie! Honest to goodness.
And the Vermont Natural Resources Council, which is not the state, it told the lawmakers it would be good to have an owner that wasn't a purely for-profit private utility.
Maybe.
You have an opportunity to be in control of renewable baseload power and have the public overseeing and responsible for the licensing and operating and the management of these facilities.
Yes.
So they got it right.
Yep. We've got
we don't have much time. We're on the last
7.5 minutes to do 3 items, so
we can do it.
Okay. Our next item is from the Denver Post.
Colorado wind power is rising. 1,880 turbines already, and Excella and Vestas, the contractors, are planning more.
Yep.
And there's a picture there of giant Vestas turbine blades being loaded on a train. And a sideline is those turbine blades are being made in Colorado.
Yeah. Okay. It's reached a point where the wind turbines generate 67% of Xcel Energy's Colorado-made electricity one morning in November, and 54% for 2 24-hour periods in October, feats that have been unmatched elsewhere, but they will be matched elsewhere in the not-distant future, mark my words. Let's go on.
Well, one quick takeaway from here.
Okay.
Wind turbine technician.
Yeah.
That job description.
Yeah.
It's the fastest growing occupation in the United States.
Yes. Followed by, what do you suppose? I would bet solar, but I don't know for a fact, but there it is.
Okay, let's move
Did we have that picture up for people?
Oh, I didn't put it up, yeah.
You didn't put it up?
I'm talking about the picture and I didn't put it up.
They're loaded on a train and they are traveling through the prairie, and in the background there's some kind of industrial thing going on. I don't know what it is. Pretty sure it's not a coal plant. There's no smokestack.
I have no idea what it is.
It could be an ethanol plant.
It looks like a refinery, doesn't it?
Here we have a microgrid under construction in Kenya, as I recall. Is that right?
It just says a microgrid construction. It doesn't say where it is.
Well, it's Tree Hugger gave us this. So what's the title?
Power Hive, the company, is delivering prepaid solar microgrids to rural villages.
Yep.
And I saw a picture of it in the article. It looks like a railroad car. They're just going to bring this thing. It's probably a trailer truck, but it looked like a rail car. And they're going to bring it onto the village, and all of a sudden 200 people have power.
Yep. The next clean energy step for the developing world might be solar-powered microgrids, such as the Power Hive is developing. These systems can deliver clean energy to remote villages of as few as 200 people. This is a pay-as-you-go system, by the way.
Yeah, they got the economics all set up. They're doing their homework.
Yep, they have been doing their homework.
And it's combined solar, energy storage, and mobile connectivity.
these people have very low power needs.
Yeah.
And what they're interested in is...
They've had no power up until now at all.
Right. And they're interested in having a light bulb so the kids can read at night.
And a television set.
And a television set. Yeah, I remember reading about people in India who had just got power, and the woman was saying, "We've got a fan."
Yeah, yeah. And I guess the real takeaway here where it's going to make a difference is that kids can do their homework.
Yeah. Our next item is from Clean Technica. You want to read for that? You want to pull it up, or should I?
This is the last one, isn't it?
It's the last one, isn't it?
Okay, U.S. climate change risks and preparedness, state by state. And there's a big map there, which we don't have a copy of.
Yeah, well, the big map actually was kind of confusing, which is why I didn't include it. If you're wondering how prepared your state is for upcoming changes in climate, if you're in Texas, you might be in for trouble. This week, Climate Central unveiled the first ever national analysis of state-level preparedness for climate change-driven weather-related events.
Oh, there was a lot of maps in this.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of them.
It was confusing.
But one thing that I did do was I made note of two in particular, four actually in particular. Vermont was rated C+.
I've got that. California, New York, Massachusetts, and Pennsylvania
got A's.
All got A's. Arkansas, Texas, and Nevada all got F's.
Yep.
Vermont, New Hampshire both got C's. Yep. And Maine got a D.
Yeah. Vermont actually got a C+. But, you know, it's distressing to me that people aren't paying attention to this, because particularly in Vermont, we got really hit by Irene.
That's what this is about. It's about preparedness for storms.
Right. And people here watched, you know, Sandy kind of skirt us and really be destructive in other states, New Jersey and New York and Pennsylvania particularly.
Well, Irene did a job on Vermont.
Irene did a job on Vermont, you know, and I walked down to Flat Street after Irene.
Did you see my car floating down the street?
No, I did not.
It did.
I believe it. But, you know, I went down to Flat Street and I looked at that and I thought, when that storm that we had several years before that really kind of wiped out the center of Allstead, New Hampshire, hit us, it was nothing, Irene wasn't any worse than that. And I was thinking, that didn't create the flooding. Where did this flooding come from? Clearly, Brattleboro was spared a lot of trouble, and the people uphill in the mountains from Brattleboro to the west of us really got slammed. Mm-hmm. And my brother's place, he lives in Marlboro, and it took 3 days for him to come to a point where he could get his car to
Route
his
9
house.
was devastated for
several
miles there.
Yeah, it was absolutely devastating.
In the area where there's a big used car lot on Route 9, it's a big used car lot. Right around that area, Route 9 got devastated. I mean, a couple of miles of highway had to be replaced.
Right, and this is going to happen again. And, you know, the climate scientists are telling us we have to be prepared for the fact that by mid-century, Irene is going to happen every couple of years. Yeah. The 500-year storm is going to happen every third year or something.
Well, so, I know that the state is doing intensive research on the streams.
Right.
But how long is it going to be before they can implement the results of this research?
It's hard to know.
It just takes a long time.
Yeah. Well, I think we've run to the end of our show.
I think we have.
And so I will say, and Tom will say, and we will say together, this sounds like a Gilbert and Sullivan skit, doesn't it? See you later.
See you later, Gator.
Have a nice week. Flat out gorgeous week.
Yeah, we'll put it up here.
We spin and we toil, we work all day, sowing and reaping, we store goods away, so we can be dressed well on the day that we die. We dig and drill and waste what we find, break up the earth, leaving little behind, but we will grow lilies in the by and by. I want to point out that the sun shines down its power to all the world and makes the wind blow strong as it will. I want to hold gentle the earth can stay lovely still.